Welcome back, everybody, to the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast, where we try to crack the code on growing your business by tackling the challenges that keep revenue leaders up at night. I'm Carl Ortmans, and on today's episode, we're going to dive into an uncomfortable topic of how health and success are linked. Now, today's podcast is sponsored by the great people at Virtual Causeway. The problem that many people are trying to solve is this: your website visitors and your lead flow are declining. Traditional demand gen, well, it's outdated. AI and LLMs now bring new opportunities as well as risks, like anonymous learning about your brand without even engagement. Virtual Causeway helps you flip the script. They don't just generate leads, they create conversations with pre qualified buyers who are ready to engage. Whether you're breaking into new markets, you're booking events, or building quality pipelines, Virtual Causeway acts as an extension of your team to drive real and meaningful interactions. You can learn more about Virtual Causeway at virtualcauseway.com and mention the show for a special rate. Now, I want to say buckle up, everybody, because my guest today is one of the most respected voices in sales enablement. He's the man who helped define the discipline himself, Roderick Jefferson. Roderick and I had the very fortunate opportunity to be trained by him at Salesforce as I not only onboarded, but he and his team continued to enable me throughout my entire journey. He's been so generous with his time with me. And while we were building Level Jump software, he was somebody that allowed me to be a sounding board, or he was a sounding board to me, I should say, for how to think about the enablement space. If you don't know Roderick, I'm not sure where you are. He's a globally recognized speaker. He's a thought leader in sales enablement and a go-to market strategy. He's the founder and CEO of Roderick Jefferson and Associates. He's worked with organizations like Salesforce and PayPal and Oracle, Zoom, Uber, LinkedIn, but he's also the person who literally wrote the book on sales enablement because it's called Sales Enablement 3.0. He's focused not only on tactics and tools, but culture, alignment, and the human side of selling. For example, how buyer and seller journeys intersect, how enablement becomes strategic rather than simply supportive. It's a true honor to welcome you to the podcast, Roderick, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, my friend. I am the one that's completely honored to be here. And with that intro, man, I'm taking you on the road with me. It's
Hey,
official.
I can be your hype man as much as you would like me to.
But you left out the most important thing.
Which
I'm
is?
a grandpa now.
Oh, right. That's right. So it's funny. There was a part of me that was like, do I say he's the godfather of sales enablement? But I thought, no, that's going to make him sound too, maybe too experienced. Let me say too experienced. Not old, you're experienced.
Yeah. Seasoned, that's the word I roll.
Seasoned. There we go. Okay. That's the word I should have used. So I apologize for dropping. But yes, Roderick is a proud grandfather and he shares lots of stories about how engaged he is with his kids, and also his grandchildren and how it lights up his world. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Man, I am so excited to be able to do this today because I remember when we first met way, way back, right? And you were a newbie and we were going through the whole onboarding thing. And you stood out though, because just like today, you were curious. And that's something that about you that has always kind of grabbed me. And that's why anytime you've got a question or as you were doing the building of Level Jump, I was like, dude, anytime I can help you, count me in.
You're far too kind, and for those of you, I'll just kind of share a funny story because I mentioned it to Roderick, and he was like, "Yeah, I remember." So we had this contest at Salesforce, and it was actually an enablement program for Data.com. So Salesforce acquired a company called Data.com, and as part of it, we had different role plays, and I was selected by our VP Paul Snelson to represent his team. And actually, Roderick, him and his team flew into Toronto, and I totally forgot that he was sitting in the back corner. And so I was the last person to go for our team, and we had to present a case as part of our simulation. And
Yep, the
anyways,
use case.
the use case, and they said, pick one, and I hit the button, and I said, I'll give you all five. And it was like all of a sudden the room went crazy, and so I ran through all five, and it was a championship belt, and it's at Data.com, and I grabbed the belt, I walked it over to Paul Snelson, I put him on his shoulder because there was a competing manager, and I put it on his shoulder, and I said, wrap it up, game's over. And anyway, so that was one of the, and Roderick mentioned that to me. He goes, do you remember this? And I said, I do remember that. It was a pretty, can I say, ballsy move by me
It
because
was
the game
definitely
wasn't over.
that. And you know what? I've never had anybody do that in my 30 years. So of course I'm going to remember that particular situation because it stood out. And I was like, as a former seller myself, I got to be honest, I was a bit envious that you were actually able to do that and you were bold enough to do it and step in and go, it mic drop, it's over. The rest of you, you're all fighting for second now. And you know what? Honestly, they were, Carl. They
It was a lot of
absolutely
fun.
were. You absolutely crushed the game that day.
It was so much fun and it's memorable. And you know, Paul, when I talk to Paul at times, we laugh about it. So, very cool. So, Roderick, how about we do this? Maybe just share with the audience a little bit about your world because you have so much. What kind of industries or verticals do you work with? You know, what are your selling motions? What size companies do you typically like to work with?
Absolutely. You know, there's a couple of different ICPs or ideal client profiles. On the one side, where I'm a fractional consultant and a keynote speaker, I'm usually working with that mid-sized company. So let me define that. That's usually, 10 to about 100, 150 million in revenue, where they've got sellers, they've got go-to-market folks, but they either have a maybe a more junior team or a one-person band, which I've been as well, or they don't have scalable, repeatable
Mm,
processes, programs, platforms, etc. So I come in and literally do an assessment, understanding where are the connections, where's the soft spots, how do they work together, or in some cases not work well together. And usually it's in tech, it's in manufacturing, it's across med devices, etc. So usually in that SaaS tech space. However, I've realized that this now scales horizontally, Carl. So
mm,
across that, I mean, construction, you name it, it's out there. And so helping companies to drive increased productivity and profitability. That's what I do on one side. On the other side, as a keynote speaker, I'd like to say there is actually not a box that I fit in. Finally, after 59 years, I've found a place where I don't fit in a box. My goal there is precisely why we're talking today, and that is while success, however you define it, can be absolutely amazing, it can also be detrimental. And
mm.
we'll talk in just a little bit about, and I'll give them a quick teaser, how it actually killed me and I flatlined and died from being successful. Thankfully, the doctors were able to bring me back.
And so it's a credible lead in. And how we got to the topic is Roderick and I did our prep call and I asked him about a success, like I do with everybody. What's a successful revenue initiative led or a challenge you're solving? And it was almost without hesitation. The topic became incredibly clear how health and success are linked. And now this is a topic that, Roderick, I think it hit home for me specifically, like for many people, it's going to hit home for many people, but including myself. I noticed where I've had situations where I lean in too much to work and I forget about myself. And so maybe there's a good way to start the conversation. And if I can ask this question, what is it about this topic that sparked our conversation today? You almost teased it though.
Well, it's an interesting kind of journey that happened. Let me go back to the future. How about that? So I call myself a recovering corporate executive, right? As Carl said, I spent 30 years in tech, whether it be with AT&T, Oracle, Salesforce, Marketo, yada, yada, yada. That and $7 will get you a latte. I just want to just kind of set the table. I believe at one point I was the quintessential definition of success. I had made it from individual contributor as a seller all the way up to vice president, then senior vice president of enablement. I had the large org. I had the big budget. I'm flying around on corporate jets and corporate helicopters. I'm in multiple countries and I'm loving it. But at the same time, I lost myself in it. And
Mm,
I had what I called the corporate mask on, where I'm supposed to be the SVP. I'm supposed to have all the answers. I'm supposed to know it all. Well, what it did was actually alienated me and put me up into an ivory tower, which I did not enjoy. And then as I was flying around, I realized, so I've got 2 older kids now, and they were littles at the time, and I realized my job is always, and I put all of my pride in providing and protecting them. And I had convinced myself that what I was doing in this big ego-filled world that I was living in was actually taking care of them, until I realized it was actually taking me away from them more than spending time with them. I remember I had flown around for about 2 weeks straight. I came home and all I wanted, Carl, was just a greasy taco. You know how it is when you're flying and you've got the hotel food and yada yada yada. And I just wanted a home cooked greasy taco.
Yeah.
I looked at my son and he said, "Dad, Tuesdays are shake and bake night." And I went, "Oh my God, they've got an entire life that does not include me."
Oh.
So the thing I was doing to provide and protect them had actually pulled me even further away from them. I
Mm.
missed football games, basketball games with my son. I missed my daughter's 8th grade graduation. And again, I had convinced myself, well, I'm doing the right thing because I'm setting up a great life for them.
Right.
Until my wife reminded me that she didn't sign up to be a single mom.
Mm.
And the life that they have right now, unfortunately, as much as it's going to hurt your feelings, it doesn't include you right now. You're
Mm.
just bankrolling it.
Hmm. It hits home for me for a few different reasons. There's lots of entrepreneurs. Dan Martell is somebody who is
And
a very
great.
he's a very popular, and his whole thing is exhaust the body, tame the mind, or something to that
Yes.
effect. And he's very focused. He works with some great entrepreneurs. Actually, one of the a couple of CEOs that I've had the pleasure to work for, Dan coaches. And that's one of the things they talk about is the health aspect of your life and why it's so important. But at the end of the day, somebody said to me one time, they said, "Carl, it's just work." But there, and maybe there's a question that I should be asking you is, what is it about that climbing the corporate ladder that we forget about the people that matter most? Is there anything that you've met with many people around the world, you've worked with some of the best and brightest people around the world. There are some people that do a very good job of saying, "This is what I'm here for, and this is where I go home to, and I'm going to try to," like, I guess maybe so the question there is like, how do people today start to separate between life and chasing that title?
Yeah, first of all, it starts with a big little word, ego. Ego.
Mm,
That you've got to learn to put that thing on the shelf. The other thing I always remind people as I'm talking is never forget your why, your actual why you are doing this. It's not just because of the money. It's not because of the prestige. It's not because of the title or the logo that you work for. There's a bigger why behind you. For me, it was my family. Others, it can be, financial freedom. Other, it could be the opportunity to travel. Whatever your why is, never allow what you do to overtake who you are, because once it does, corporate is one. And
mm,
I learned a long time ago, corporate is here to make a profit, not friends.
mm,
We're all interchangeable cogs, because I realized when I got sick, had I died and not come back, here's what would have happened. My company would have put out some really, really nice flowery statements in social media posts. They would have sent off the distribution check to my wife and my family. Then, Carl, they would have opened another rep and they would have started moving forward,
right.
right? Because there's still a job to do. And so I have a friend, and he stopped me in my tracks the other day. He said something that was so profound. I'm still having a hard time getting my head around it. He said, if you are the only person that can do any task in a company, how important is that task really?
Hmm,
Think about that. If
hmm.
there's no one else that can do it, then you've made yourself indispensable, but you've also made yourself overworked.
And I have a true belief of the role of a leadership is not to create more followers, it's to create more leaders.
100%.
And so what like, if you're the only one, then how come? Is it because you're just so much smarter or better than everybody else? It like, I guess the question maybe maybe how come? And I don't know how to answer or ask the question is like, how come you're the only one that can do that specific thing? And maybe that's part of the lead up to how you got to here. And so if I can maybe pull back just for a second and kind of build up, because there are moments inside of people's careers and moments inside of companies where you get to that point where you're like, I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to work those extra hours. I'm just going to get there because I'm just going to, there's the next thing. So from your perspective, and if you think back to, because as Roderick said, he's like, I literally died. Like he literally killed himself for work. And if I say that correctly,
No, you're absolutely correct.
but what are the steps or what are the signs? Maybe what are the steps or the signs that you look back to and say, it was here where I know that I started to go too far one way and I stopped caring. I stopped focusing on the things that I had the most why.
Oh, I remember it vividly. It was my very first VP slot when I was at Marketo, because I stopped doing all the things, and I'll give more detail on that. For me, I've always been a people person,
Mhm.
and I am still in contact with most of the people on my teams over the last 30 years, still connected on social media. We still check on each other. We send, holiday gratitude to each other. I changed when I hit Marketo, and I turned into someone that I did not like. There was this persona of RJ that was created, not Roderick Jefferson, but RJ. RJ was the VP. He was the hard-nosed guy. He was the guy that was doing all the things that I thought a VP did. It's kind of like when people get money and they start doing things that they think rich people do, as opposed to living the way that they were before. That was me. I focus more on, this is my program manager, this is my engineer, this is my title versus people. And that was the first time I can think in my life, not just in my career, where I looked in the mirror and said, oh, I love you, but I don't like this guy. And I'm pretty sure, Carl, there were a number of people thinking the very same things about me. Now, was I successful? I was very successful. I was very productive. I was very profitable. But I was also very unhappy. Because I knew in my heart of hearts that wasn't me, but I was trying to fit into what the culture and the climate was like. And by the way, I define culture as what happens when no one is watching.
Yeah.
It's behind the curtain. It's what people talk about on Glassdoor. It's about what they talk about with candidates that are applying. They talk about with their significant other. That was not a happy time. It was probably one of the most productive times I've had. Because as I said, I was defining myself by the title, by the salary, by the logo, by the fact that we were on the verge of being acquired, all of these things that at the end of the day meant nothing. I remember my uncle used to say all the time, my late uncle, and he would say, nephew, have you ever seen a U-Haul connected to the back of a hearse? I laughed. I said, of course not. He goes, exactly. None of that stuff really matters. But what matters are the people that come to your ceremony or to your funeral and have genuinely strong words and emotions to say about you. I need you to start thinking about who you are again and not what you do.
My experience with you, I remember the emails that you would respond with RJ. Now you respond with Roderick, and that's an interesting shift, because what you're saying is about the person who is RJ. My experience with you and with even the RJ, again, to me, has been always very kind, always very supportive and generous.
Thank you. You saw the early version of RJ when I was still focused on climbing the ladder. Once I got to the top rung, all of a sudden I thought, oh, I have arrived and I'm supposed to act a certain way. And again, executives take on the culture and the climate of a company. People think that we drive the culture. No, 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 no. We're not the ones driving it. We take it on, and it's either positive or negative, especially when I was in a situation coming in as a VP where one, no one knew I had been hired and there was a senior director in place. So instantly, I walked into a really ugly situation.
Mhm.
And secondly, there was a changing of the guards. There was a new CEO at the time, and there were the old execs that they were kind of ushering out. And then there was a group of us that were being ushered in, and it was like oil and water.
Hmm.
And it was a situation I had never been in before. And, in hindsight, I did not handle it well.
So, what was it about that situation? Like, because there's going to be other people that are listening. They're going to jump into a place, and I've actually been into a position where I jumped in. There were people that wanted the role, and maybe I got the role, but they didn't, and there was some conflict. From your experience of taking that role, how did you handle the situation, or maybe better said, how did you diffuse the situation to bring everybody together?
I don't know that I ever diffused it, to be honest. I
Oh,
think that I just kind of skated along and got along to get along kind of thing in that situation. Now, there have been other times where I've come in and it's been similarly after that, where the first thing I did was I ingratiated myself with the person that was in the big seat before I came in. I made sure that I partnered and collaborated with them. And it's always around the time where we're going through preparation for SKO, generally when I've come in. And I say, you know what? Talk to me about what's already in place. What are your thoughts? What direction were you looking? And then let's see if we can figure out, by my experience, some things that I've seen that worked and haven't worked. But at the end of the day, I need people to know that this is still your fingerprints on this. My, I'll call maiden voyage, won't start until after we leave SKO. Up until that point, it's still your baby.
mhm.
I'm just here to provide guidance and experience, but I need everybody to know that this is still you driving the bus. And you know what happened? The opposite and antithesis of what I just talked about. This was, wow, I didn't expect that from you coming, because we never know. You get a new leader, especially at VP, SVP level, you never know who's coming in the door.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Step back and think about the human first, right? Think about this from the perspective of, what if I were that person? What would I want in my new leader? And also, how do I now ingratiate myself to the team as well as the entirety of the company without coming in like I'm the new sheriff in town? Instead, I am not that at all. I'm actually coming in to do three things: listen, learn, then lead, in that order.
Hmm. There's it I don't know if it's the social world talking to me today, but I came across a clip of Simon Sinek, and there is that, right? Like, how many leaders walk into a building and immediately go, "I'm changing everything," without going, "Let me listen to what's going on. Let me learn about where things are so then I can change it." But this conversation with Simon Sinek was talking with this gentleman, and I can't remember his name, so I apologize. But the conversation was, if you come into a new company and you go, "Hey, I'm gonna be your manager," there's a stigma set up already. But
Yes.
what it sounded like is what this gentleman said is, "Hey, Roderick, great to meet you. I'm gonna be your coach."
No, I wasn't even a coach at the time. I'm going to be your partner,
Mm,
is what I did, was in. And so I want to talk directly to the leaders out there, whether you're net new, whether you're on the cusp of becoming a leader, or whether you've been a leader for 10, 15, 50 years. I have a simple three-part question that I ask in every single meeting that I start, whether it's with the team, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's with my peers. And it goes like this: before we get started, I've got one question for you. Do you want me to listen? Do you want me to coach? Or do you want me to fix? Let me
mhm,
say that again. Do you want me to listen, coach, or fix?
mm,
Because that does two things, Carl. One, as leaders, we're natural fixers. it tells us what set of ears to put on, right? Because it's not always a fix that they, most of the time, it's not a fix that they need. And the second thing that it does is it tells the other person you're talking to, this conversation is all about you, not
Mhm. The other thing it does, it creates a safe space. Like, you're
me.
creating the space for them to know what persona or what role you wanna play. And I may have stolen this from you and just shifted around. Candidly, I ask I do I seem to do a lot of, like, leadership coaching for
Mhm.
managers that wanna get promoted, directors and
Yes,
VPs
I
like
know
this,
what that one's like. Yeah.
right? So, it's something that, and I've become super passionate about this and watching these people join. But as they come in, I go, "Okay, do you wanna vent? Do you want me to help you solve, or do you want me to fix?"
Mhm.
And that's the question that that started, and you see them go, "What do you mean? Aren't like, what?" And so that right there, it sets the tone. "Hey,
It
what do you
does.
wanna talk," because I agree with you, it's about them. And there is this I demand respect mentality that's happening, and even look at what's happening in the world, right? There's
Oh,
the, what is
absolutely.
it, 996
Yes.
culture that started to show up, and how that's all come to play. But at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all trying to help do the best work
Yes.
possible. But if you don't have your best self, you can't help others. And I think that's go back to the airplane analogy, right? Why do you put your mask on first?
So that you can help others
Yeah.
and be
And
the best
that's
that you can be, but when you're helping them.
because if you don't have enough oxygen, you can't do it. I use the analogy, hey, he sharpened the sword. Like, go sharpen your sword, because the more that you sharpen your sword, the better you're gonna be. So maybe coming using that as sort of an insight to our conversation today is, do you look back to the moments where you go, you know what, I stopped sharpening the sword, or I didn't put my mask on first, and I allowed it to affect me and my work and take me away from who I wanted to be or what I wanted to do? I don't know if there's a correlation, or there's signs or signals that you look back to and say, it was actually these things that happened. And for others, be aware, when you feel these things, you should start to reassess your priority levels.
Absolutely. When you get comfortable living at that red line of stress and that becomes the norm for you, you've got a problem.
Mhm.
When you start convincing yourself that, as I did, all the things that I'm doing that take my family away from them is really all about them because I'm trying to take care of and provide and protect them. No, you're not. You're lying to yourself.
Hmm.
When you become consistently the quote unquote, um, what's the word I'm looking for? The smartest person in any
Hmm.
room, you got a problem. And go back to what I said earlier. When you have tasks that you're the only person that can do something, you've got a major problem because what that says is you have wrapped your arms around things so tight that you're not helping other people and you're not coaching and teaching. Now, when I was younger, I used to believe that I was invincible because of all of the knowledge that I held. As I got older and more seasoned, I realized that I'm more invincible because I give to give. And that's the other thing. It's not give to get. It's literally I give to give. Let me explain what that means. A lot of people will remind you, "Oh, we did this 5 times and I did this for you," and or, quid pro quo. No, no, no. You give to give because regardless of what you believe in from a spiritual or religious perspective or higher power, I realized through the things I've been through that, and for me, it's God. God will take care of me in different ways than I help other people. I realize I'm in no ego in this statement at all. I'm at a point in my age and stage of life where I can probably help people a lot more than they can help me.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that now. I used to be like to my wife, I'm always doing this. I give, give, and when's it going to come back? And she looked at me and she goes, "Shut up." First of all, she did say that. She said, "Shut up. You've got a roof over your head. Your family's healthy. You've got love and people that love you and like you. And you're finally comfortable with what and who you are." That's not how God works. He gives you the things that you need so that you can give to other people.
Hmm.
My late mom used to say something that rings in my ears every single day. You can't move forward, not unless, but until you give back to others.
Hmm. There's a couple of things that you said that I immediately jumped to and I think about. Adam Grant is so good, and he wrote the book Givers and Takers, and
Mhm,
it's exactly what you said. And where I heard from him the first time, he was on a Tony Robbins podcast, and he talked about, if you there's the takers of the world of I'll only do something for you if you'll do this for me, but then there's the givers of the world, right? Like I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna do these things because there is the thing that you have to think about as a leader, in my view, is how do you create those next leaders? Because I have a belief of I'm trying to work myself out of a job.
absolutely. From
I'm
day
not
one.
right. Like I want somebody else to take my job because guess what? The moment that that happens, they're going to go, "Hey, can you go over here and do this thing now?" Or do you know what? Your mission is over, and that's okay because there's parts in your career and there's parts of a company journey where some people fit really well. I know people that are very, very good at the 1 to 10 million. After
Mhm.
the 1 to 10 million, hey, look, this isn't for me. I
It's
quit.
outside of my skill set.
And I
You
don't
need to
like it.
replace me with someone else
Yeah, and they don't like it. And they go, "That's okay." I know others are like, "Listen, don't talk to me unless you're $100 million in business." I
because
have
I
no
don't
interest.
have the mindset to talk about all the minutia down low,
Yeah.
right?
And there is a huge part of that to say, where do you really excel? Where do you enjoy? Where do you like to? Because if you're trying to do something that you've never done before, or if you get your first VP title, and I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but here's how I hear it. You got the first VP title, you had this mentality in your mind of like, I have to be the fixer for everything and I've got to be superhero. I
You're absolutely right.
That's what I'm hearing. And so you literally worked yourself into the bone versus, there's if you've I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but there's this give away your Legos. Have you ever,
Mhm.
right? Like, hey, give the Legos away because you can't play with all of them.
No.
Hey, look, there's more in the closet. Do you want me to get another? Do you want here? Look, I'll play with this one that's over there, and you take this one now. And as part of leaders, that's missed many times. And you
Yeah.
see people go, look, I hit burnout. And we're at a point now in life where I don't know. Maybe I'll ask you it this way. Have you ever experienced the number of people taking career breaks because they're burnt out
No,
before
never.
COVID?
Never. Right now, again, I think it's because for the longest, especially because my career grew up here in Silicon Valley, that badge of honor. I worked 60, 70 hours this week, or I've been in 257 Zoom meetings. That and $7 will get you a latte. It just means that you've got a lot of activity. Doesn't mean that you're actually productive.
Mhm.
And when did you stop to think about and take care of yourself? What I do now, Carl, is I actually have breaks scheduled in my day. I
Mm,
won't do more than 2 meetings back to back because since the stroke that I had, my brain doesn't work the same. It doesn't hold, that doesn't mean that I don't have the capacity and the intelligence. What it says is it needs times to recharge my battery throughout the day.
mhm.
And that's when I'm at my best. And when I do those breaks, I don't eat lunch at the computer anymore. I don't take when I do take a break, I usually go outside, get some sun or some fresh air. The other day, I went and sat out in my bocce court on a chair and just listened to the birds sing and chirp. Anything to reset yourself, because the more that you do, the body remembers and it takes on trauma and it holds on to it. And sometimes you need to do things differently. Like instead of doing things with your right hand, do it with your left because it helps to reset your brain, but it also helps to reset your soul. And that's the whole thing. For so long, we've all been taught by the machine, if you will, that it's all about feeding myself, my family, my friends, my circle. But no one ever taught, at least for me, no one ever taught me how important it is to feed my soul.
Hmm. Are there signs for people to consider before they hit the phase where maybe you said, like, and I'm using the words, but before you killed yourself, like
Yeah.
you killed yourself from work. Are there signs that you would tell people to pay attention to?
Yeah, I got comfortable with being uncomfortable in a number of situations, whether it be in meetings, whether it be professionally, whether it be sometimes, and it sounds weird, I got uncomfortable sitting on the couch at home. I'm like, I need to be going, I need to be doing. I used to always say, "There's no grass that grows up under my feet," right? Which says I'm constantly moving. Now, find a way to get comfortable with uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Find a way to be more present with the people that truly matter and care for and love you around you. You know, put the phone down. Everybody has an addiction of some sort. Mine is my cell phone. And now it's, you know what, at a certain time, put it down. It
Hmm.
doesn't come to the table anymore because I need to be present. I need to be in these and a part of all of these conversations as opposed to having all these conversations around me. I want to
Hmm.
be a part of them. Stop for a moment, you leaders, and think, when's the last time you talked to the person on your team versus the title or the position that has deliverables for you or aren't meeting their deliverables? Now, I've worked for people for years and never knew that they had siblings. I know it sounds silly. Do you have brothers and sisters? Really? Where'd you grow up? I know where you went to school. I know what your major was. I know what you do here, but I know nothing about the person. Now, and it's crazy because now the more that I travel internationally, I realize that currency is relationships everywhere except for America.
Hmm.
In America, the first thing we do is we extend our hand. We say, "Hi, my name is, my title is, and I work for X company." As I'm flying around and I'm working internationally, the first thing is, "How's your flight?
Hmm.
How long are you going to be in town? Where are you going out to eat? What kind of food do you like?" And I'm like, "Yeah, hi, my name is Roderick, and I'm XX, and I work at," and I started going, "No, I don't do that anymore. No more focusing on what I do, where I do it. I focus on why it's important." And one thing that met my late mom. So when I flatlined, I'll say it really quickly. I actually had a conversation with my late mom who died in 1999. This was only 4 years ago that I had the stroke. And the one thing she told me was that my job is twofold. One, to give a smile to, as she said, the invisible people every day. That's
Hmm.
the valet, that's the waitress, that's the person that, checks you in for your flight at the hotel, because that may be the only smile that that person gets all day. And the other thing she told me was that you need to leave an impression of people that they would not have gotten if they didn't interact with you on a given day.
Hmm.
Because I've had people come back later and say, "Now, I was on the verge of unaliving myself until we had a conversation. I was deep in depression. And for some reason, you always know the perfect time to call." I don't know why. Sometimes you just get intuitive feelings, and sometimes it's just important to connect with people and to virtually touch them,
Hmm.
right? I've realized now, especially with my grand, there is not a better feeling on the planet than a hug. No matter what kind of mood you're in, if someone gives you a genuine hug, whether it's virtual, "Hey, I was just thinking about you. I sent you a text. Hey, how are things going on in your world?" It's amazing how much that changes people's attitude and latitude. Both takes them to a whole different place, Carl.
Hmm.
Stop for a moment, and I'd like to challenge your audience. Stop for a moment, make one call. And I say call because we're so focused on social media and texts and whatnot. Make 3 calls today
Hmm.
to people you haven't touched and talked to in a while. And listen how you can feel their soul light up like a Christmas tree on the other side of the phone.
Hmm.
And don't do it for yourself. Do it because this may be exactly what they need right now. just to get through the day or the moment that they're dealing with right now.
Hmm. I totally agree with you, and I think COVID landed that for me because some of my closest friends, I gave a call, and there's this. I guess I'll say it this way: if somebody I introduce, "Hey, how are you?" I don't respond to "How are you?" because I know that they don't care.
It's not genuine.
No, it's part of the, "Hey, how are you?" And there was a VP that I that I worked for, and he would go, "Hey, Carl, hey, how are you?" And then he would just continue on. He didn't actually stop and think
Mm-mm.
about it. And so now I
It's like
found,
during COVID when we say, "Hey, how are things with you and your family?" It
yeah,
became so disingenuous.
yeah. And so I started calling my friends over COVID, and I said, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And it was just those words, like, "What do you mean? Am I okay?" I'm like, "I'm just checking in on you. Are you good?" And it was, they were a little bit, "Why are you asking me?" But I
It
think it's
kind of throws people off, doesn't it?
yeah, and but there also is a genuine component, right? Like today, your conversation you started, "Hey, it's been a minute. How you hanging in?" Right? Like it changes the context versus, "Hey, how are you?" And there's one thing you said about the difference between Europe or the international side and North America. North
Yes.
Americans live to work. If you go over internationally, they work to live.
Oh,
They don't
absolutely.
confuse it. And
Oh,
one of the
God.
things that I had to learn was, if you ever work in Paris or in France, if you try to do business in August in France, you're not
Everybody's
gon
on holiday. Good
they're
luck.
gone. They are gone. They
Yeah.
will
I
not miss their vacation.
And I don't blame them. I used to get so frustrated by my international team because I'd be like, "You've got bank holidays, you've got all of August. When do you guys actually work?"
Yeah,
And now in hindsight, Carl, I look back and go, they were the smart ones. They did
sharp.
not allow the machine to chew them up and spit them out the way that we do.
Mm,
I remember when I was in the hospital after my stroke, don't do this. This is how not to be Roderick right here. Put the asterisk. I literally jumped on one of my team calls within a week of having a near death stroke.
mm,
And I have never been lambasted and talked at and yelled at as much as my team did on that call. And then they instantly removed me from the meeting and I couldn't get back in. That's how crazy things get when you allow what you do to overtake who you are.
mm. Yeah,
Don't become me. And look, you may never have a stroke. However, what I've found out from the American Stroke Society is that 1 out of every 4 humans on the planet over the age of 25 will incur a stroke. This was
wow.
my second one, and I didn't even realize I had the first one, girl.
Hmm,
So I pray that the folks looking and listening never have a stroke,
yeah,
but either you or someone around you will, or it'll be you. And there are things that you can do to kind of stave that off. Some things come physically. For me, there was a heart issue from, like yourself, being a high level athlete, and I've got an enlarged heart, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and it created a clot that floated up to my brain while I was asleep, and it created a stroke. Other people, it's stress induced,
mm,
and most of them are because people have gotten comfortable with being at that high level and red line of stress. And then
yeah,
it becomes the norm. Don't get comfortable with that
yeah.
because there are too many people counting on you to be here. There are too many reasons that you still need to be here. And there's way too much more things for you to do and experience outside of work. I go back to my uncle. I have never seen a U-Haul connected to the back of a hearse.
There's a famous speech of the CEO of Coca-Cola. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but he says there's 5 balls you juggle in life, and you can only drop one. So if you think of life, you have 5 balls you're constantly juggling.
Uh-huh.
You have work, you have family, you have health, you have friends, and you have your spirit, and you're trying to always keep them up in the air, right? But what he says is you'll soon understand that there's one that's rubber. If you drop it, it's going to bounce back. But the other 4, they're made of glass. And if you drop them, you might fracture them, or worst case is they shatter. And those four: family, health, friends, and spirit. If you drop the fifth one, work, it's going to bounce back.
You can always get another job. You can't get another family or the others. For me, I have my 4 pillars of F. And my uncle reminded me, a different uncle reminded me, there's another F that I had left out. Yeah, and it's probably the one that all of you are thinking right now. Right? My 4 Fs are faith, family, friends, and fun.
Hmm.
And especially that last one, because the older we get, the more mature and seasoned we become, the more we forget the childlike euphoria of having fun. I'll tell you a quick story. So my son was probably 2, maybe 3. My wife had taken him out on a play date. They were out in the park with other little boys. They're playing with their Tonka trucks and all that. And they're getting ready to leave and go put him in the car seat and take him home. My wife said, go back and say, you want to say goodbye to your friend? She goes, oh, no, I already did. And she goes, oh, okay. What's your friend's name? And here's the quality that I want to live by for the rest of my life. You know what he said? Blue shirt.
Blue shirt.
Blue shirt. He didn't know the kid's name. He just knew he had a blue shirt on. And he was friends. He likes to, play in dirt with trucks, and so do I. So I'll go back to the whole thing about North America of extending your hand. The next time you extend your hand, please remember, I'm meeting my new blue shirt today. I'm not meeting an executive. I'm not meeting a vendor. I'm not meeting, a potential client or prospect. I'm meeting my blue shirt. So every time I go on to a podcast or I go on to a Zoom with a prospect or with one of my clients, my wife always peeks her head in the door right before, and she says, meet a new blue shirt today.
It's awesome. Maybe that's our wrap up point, because it's been, I think I could talk to you for hours and carry on.
And likewise, my friend.
So I ask everybody this at the end. Everybody likes new and nobody likes different. And when you're doing both at the same time, it can either cause friction or uncertainty. So for somebody who's listened to this conversation and goes, you know what? My balance is way off one way or the other. What are 2 or 3 key things for them to consider and look into and say, here's your warning signs, or try these things, and it'll allow you to recenter and bring you back to your 4 Fs or whatever it is?
First and foremost, remember, you were not born to be the fixer of broken things and broken people. That's not your job. The next piece is, how much do you know about the people in your inner circle that really matters? Or is this just surface? Start by removing all surface relationships. And I didn't say people, I said relationships, which means you have to focus, laser focus on digging deeper with people. And the third thing is, the job that you do is what you do. It's not who you are. And as I said earlier, once you allow what you do to overtake who you are, you've lost.
If you're thinking about this, if you're struggling right now with creating that balance, if you are thinking about, my health is going one way and I'm focused here, I'm redlining, I'm stressed out, pay attention to what Roderick's saying, because he isn't just here to tell you stories. He's telling you about his experience. And I know that you are going to be launching a new book soon about this exact topic. And I believe it's
out now.
It's out now.
It's officially out right now. Stroke of success. Good timing, man.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't have timed this any better. Roderick, it's been so much fun. Where can people find you if they want to learn more, they want to talk to you, even want to look about, but where do they find you?
Absolutely. I would say go to roderickjefferson.com. You can find out more about me personally. You can find out more about my consultancy, my workshops, my keynotes, and you can also purchase the new book here, Stroke of Success.
Amazing. Roderick, I can tell you as many amazing things as I think I could, but I could be here for a long time. You continue to inspire. You continue to allow me to ask you crazy questions about, different things because I truly appreciate your perspective. I've learned so much from you as somebody working with you and then or working underneath your organization, and even more so becoming friends with you over these years, and again, you allowing me to learn about you, your life, what you're doing. I can't say thank you enough for doing this today, and I hope that people that have listened in and they've said, hey, you know what, these are the signs, I hope you pay attention, because he's not telling you stories, he's telling you about his experience, and it's not something that you want to experience. So um, I appreciate you so much, sir. We'll get wrapped up here. So to everybody, that wraps up another episode of the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast. I obviously want to thank Roderick for being incredibly vulnerable and sharing these insights with us today. And you heard that there are some tactics that you can put into action right out of the gate. Remember, success leaves clues, and every revenue problem has a solution. Sometimes you just need the right conversation to find it. Until next time, this is Carl with the Revenue Problem Solvers, helping you turn obstacles into opportunities. Thank you for investing your time with us today, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, sir.